first of all, just ignore me playing Minecraft in the background of a video about a terrible humanitarian crisis. I made art, but the speed paint got corrupted. Here's the art. I guess we can still appreciate it for its message or whatever, but yeah, sorry. You have to deal with Minecraft. And I'm also sorry that the audio to this video is terrible. I do not know what's wrong with my phone right now. I record all my audio with my phone because I'm a loser. Anyways, this video is not scripted, which is probably a bad idea given how contentious the situation is. I've wanted to make this video for probably like a month now, but anyways, I literally couldn't because the first semester of my senior year was wrapping up and I had to study unless I wanted my grades to drop harder than the stock market during the Great Depression. And I am fully aware that this is a really bad look for me, and I apologize for that. That said, I've also been kind of avoiding the subject because I didn't want to get involved in any arguments, and I didn't want to say anything potentially problematic. I realized that that's a really fucking stupid way to think. If I'm gonna come out here and be so obnoxiously vocal about Ukraine, I should have the balls to talk about geopolitical situations that are more divisive and nuanced. And I also realize that it's dumb for me to choose not to say anything because I don't want to insert myself into an inherently controversial discourse, because people living in Gaza do not have the choice to be detached from what's going on because they're living it. And I have a relatively politically active audience since, like, the fandom that somehow catapulted me out of the realm of complete and total insignificance is sort of like intrinsically political. But anyways, whether you support Israel or Palestine, please listen to me before you go in the comments and write a 5-paragraph essay about why I'm a dumbass. Like, you're not wrong, I am a dumbass, but this isn't the reason for my dumbassery. But anyways, I'm not trying to change anybody's minds, I'm just trying to appeal to humanity because people are dying. I feel like everyone has to realize that what's going on right now is just not okay for so many different reasons. And there are ways to help people without supporting shitty governments. First of all, I think we should just stop fucking killing each other. That's my political agenda. I know it's really, like, shocking and radical, but it seems like an obvious conclusion to me, but I guess not. And I think that playing politics with human lives is disgusting, and that Israelis and Palestinians both have a right to exist. What I think a lot of people fail to understand is that when someone says they stand with Palestine, it doesn't mean they stand with Hamas. It might. I'm not saying that there aren't people like that, but Hamas can go fuck itself. Like, I'm not even gonna try to appeal to neutrality here. They are terrorists by definition, and I hear people say, oh, but you only think they're terrorists because that's what the West says. And, bitch, no, here's the literal definition of terrorism on screen right now. I think that describes Hamas pretty accurately. And they clearly don't give a shit about the well-being of the Palestinian people. I kind of give a shit about the well-being of the Palestinian people because I tend to sort of give a shit about people anyways, so I'm not going to extend my support and sympathy to a militia that does not. I extend my support and sympathy to civilians, and that is all. Hamas and the IDF have both done terrible things. Hamas can be a terrorist group, the IDF can be a national defense organization, and they can both be committing literal war crimes. These statements are not mutually exclusive, and I don't understand why some people think they are. Do I think Hamas was in the right to kill a bunch of civilians back in October? No. Do I think that the IDF is in the right now to retaliate by killing thousands more civilians? Also no. Every political entity in this situation is acting immorally and irresponsibly, and it is costing human lives, and I'm sorry if I sound pissed off. It's because I am. This situation is extremely frustrating because it keeps building off itself, and just over and over again we have the same conflict, and it never gets resolved because people refuse to see any nuance in the situation. And I think if we lived in a world where people could use their brains and act rationally instead of hurling missiles at each other at the drop of a hat, both of them could exist. But I do not support either of their current governments. Fuck them both. They both suck, and innocent people are dying because of mutual aggression and unwillingness to come to a compromise. I've seen people say that criticizing Hamas is inherently anti-Palestine because there's just like supposedly no chance of peacefully resolving this anymore, but that's bullshit. Like, non-violent political movements are 10 times more effective than violent ones. I'm not pulling this out of my ass. Like, I've done a lot of research on this for college level courses, and when you look at history, it really does show. And one of the reasons for this is that non-violent movements can sort of attract a lot more supporters because they appeal to a wider base and they attract more international support and sympathy. And I'm not claiming to be an expert, but the expert opinion really isn't hard to find. Even if what these people were saying was true and that nonviolent resistance wasn't an option, I think that killing civilians is a pretty shitty form of violent resistance. If you have to kill people, don't kill the fucking civilians. Like, if the attack had been on legitimate military targets, well, I would still think it's fucking stupid of Hamas because they know that Israel will launch a response that is 10 times more deadly, but all they're doing is alienating potential supporters of Palestine. And instead of looking at the political aspect of this conflict, I implore you to pay attention to the people who are actually suffering. And these people are innocent civilians. And are all of them innocent? Is every Palestinian innocent? No, of course not. I'm sure that at least some of the people that have been killed in the conflict are in support of this violence and are members of Hamas. But you cannot tell me that the ratio of terrorists to civilians who have been slaughtered over the past 4 or 5 months is acceptable. And it also makes me wonder, is this just going to raise another generation of terrorists? Like, when children see their family getting killed, they're going to blame Israel because who else are they going to blame? And that's just going to radicalize them and attract them to the Hamas rhetoric that, yeah, we need to kill everybody to be free. And another thing I want to say is that I've definitely seen people use the whole situation as an excuse to be anti-Semitic. And don't get me wrong, criticizing Israel is not anti-Semitic. In fact, I think that saying that it is anti-Semitic is more anti-Semitic, if that makes sense, because, like, you're associating all Jews with Israel, and, like, just because Israel is a Jewish state does not mean that they are representative of every Jew. Like, Jews aren't a fucking hive mind, they're human beings. And in addition to that, criticizing Hamas is not Islamophobic. Like, listen, it goes both ways. If you're gonna say that Hamas is not representative of all Palestinians, which it isn't, you need to understand that Israel's government is also not representative of all Jews. Another thing that bothers me is, like, do not use the Star of David as a symbol of Israel and, like, the violence, because, well, this is gonna be an ironic comparison, but it's like what the Nazis did to the swastika, which is, like, a literal peace symbol in Hinduism. Like, don't let people do the same thing to the Star of David. Like, it's literally, it should... I mean, I know it's difficult because Israel has a Star of David on their flag, but still, like, that symbol in itself should not be demonized because it is, like, representative of Judaism as a whole, you know? I think anybody who doesn't support a ceasefire is a fucking idiot. Like, literally everybody benefits from a ceasefire. I am sure that there are a lot of Israeli soldiers who would rather be home with their families than killing people and, like, occasionally getting killed themselves. I say that like they can get killed multiple times, but that's not what I meant. At the end of the day, civilians in Israel and Palestine want what's best for their families and their loved ones because we are all human beings. No matter our politics, we care about our children and we want a future for them. People just have really, really different ideas of what that future should look like. And when they feel attacked, it's easy for them to become blind to the nuance of the situation. I've said the word nuance like 3 times in this video. I don't care. Human beings are emotional creatures, and when somebody is in pain, logic tends not to appeal to that person's suffering. And it's easy to forget that the people on the other side of the conflict are human beings who deserve basic dignity. All I'm asking is that you recognize the tragedy of what's going on outside the political implications. Like, people are starving to death. People are dying of thirst. Women are getting septic shock because they don't have tampons to shove up their pussy when their uterus decides to be wow, okay, that was dumb. I should have scripted this, but the point still fucking stands. Like, that was an awful way of wording it, but it's true. Like, people are dying for the dumbest reasons when it could all be prevented. And it is not okay that humanitarian aid is being blocked and that safe zones are being bombed regardless of who is doing it. Once again, I'm not trying to get you to support a specific party. I just want people to be able to recognize that there are human beings over there with lives and families and futures who are getting all of that taken away from them. And the whole situation is just terrible all around. I would encourage you to help in any way that you can. In terms of humanitarian aid, not military funding or whatever bullshit. Humanitarian aid only, because if you fund a military, all that does is perpetuate the violence. If you donate to an Israeli mental health charity that helps Israeli children recover from the trauma of what happened on October 7th, that's great, wonderful. Just don't donate to anybody, like, actively killing people. Just help people. I'm stumbling over my words here because this just gets me so worked up that people are just so unable to see the fact that we're all human beings. And if you can't help financially because you don't have the means to, just spread the word. Be an activist for humanity as, like, a concept, regardless of where the humans are from or what side they're on. I'm gonna link some charities, humanitarian charities, I cannot stress this enough. I'm gonna link some charities in the description. These are impartial, non-government affiliated organizations with the goal of helping people. Well, I mean, I guess the UN ones aren't non-government affiliated, but whatever. You have the Palestinian Children's Relief Fund, the UNICEF Emergency Relief for Gaza, the World Food Program, Doctors Without Borders, the International Rescue Committee. The International Red Cross has a link to donate to help both Israelis and Palestinians. I don't know how to end this video. I know this probably isn't going to be well received by everybody. I just think that these two countries have a right to exist, and that they should exist in peace, because we are all human beings, and we are all deserving of a home.